He calls the cops. Remember, he calls the cops on me. Cops like, yo, you got to put this front door on. I showed him paperwork. He said, oh, you are the owner. And he showed him some little BS paperwork he had. Like, yo, I live here, X, Y, and Z. So the cops told me, they said, look, pulled me to the side. He said, look, listen, the law states if it's your house, nobody can stop you from doing work in your house, but you cannot make the house unsafe by taking the front door off. I'm talking about we ripped everything out. The floor, subfloor, the floor joist, everything out.
Whoa.
And then he ended up leaving the next day. He was like, all right, this is doing too much.
Yo, that's what they call crazy stories behind the permits.
A lot of people hear like permit plug or permit expediter. They don't know. When I tell people like, yo, you need a permit expediter, they like, well, what the hell is that? So I want you to just explain that.
A permit expediter is pretty much that. We are the person who help a client with their permits when it comes to construction permits, building permits, rehab permits, renter's licensing, contractor licensing, as well as stop work violations, different type of violations that you can obtain or that you can get in any place, no matter what part of the country. Somebody gonna get a stop work, whether they call it a stop work or a cease or whatever that may be. That's when you call someone like us that plays the liaison between the municipality and the client. Zoning, I always say, is the mother of the building.
Yeah.
Zoning is, you know how to do, you know zoning, you pretty much mastered half of the real estate in the country, right? License inspection, the inspectors, right? Who can give me violation? Who can't give me violations, right? So sometimes if you know the title of what that person's position is, you don't know if they're coming out of their scope. Yeah. Well, I don't even know why you're over here because this is not even your district, or this may not even be your area.
If you are someone, right, that is doing projects under the radar and you know you don't have your permits, you don't know you don't have your paperwork, and you like, hey, this is a 30-day flip, I just want to get in, get out, I really don't want to do the whole permit thing. Be mindful of what you're doing outside, out front. So what that means is don't be having this dumpster sitting in front of the house, your guys outside playing all this Spanish music in front of the door. You're just making a scene. Now you're bringing attention to your project.
But let me tell you the quick hack way in order to, when you're a new contractor, I just had a GC class last weekend, right? A quick hack. I show them, number one, I teach my GCs how to call for permits. Okay. I show them where to find the permits, like where to find the inspections. I give them the phone number. I tell them I break down the electrical and the third party inspector. I tell them to show up at their inspections. See, you're quick to get everything, but if you show up at your actual inspection, whether you feel like it or not, you're going to learn some things that for free.
What are the different like permits and licensing? Like people, like for example, rental license, building permit, demo permit, like. And I'm honest, it was even confusing for me when I first got started. Like, yo,
single family, that's a regular residential permit, and that's a standard permit. Now, what changes it depends on what you're doing with it. You want to turn it into a multi-level property, that all requires zoning. So that tells me now I need a zoning permit and a building permit. Zoning allows you to be the thing that you want, and your certificate of occupancy allows you to open up your doors. L&I is also what we call inspectors. Is inspectors or agents or whatever you call them in any part of the other city. It's really for health and safety. Their main job is they want to make sure that you're building things and installing things correctly for the health and safety of the occupant. Before anything, I always tell people when you're buying a property, because you guys will call me up and say, hey, Paulette, I'm getting ready to buy this property. Could you tell me what's up with it, right? I'm going to tell you if there's violations against it, what kind of violations. I can tell you how much the permit is going to cost. I can give you pre-estimates on what this project would look like financially from a permit expediter standpoint, right?
I bought a building and I came back and it was gone.
And you came back and it was gone. That happened to a client of mine too. Came back and it was gone.
I bought a building with a violation. This being green, didn't really know. I came back and the building was gone. It was just a lot. They tore it down. It was on a unsafe list. I didn't know about that. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Funded and Closed podcast. My name is Derek Boone, and I create this podcast for individuals like you who want to grow, want to learn, want to make more money, and just want to get to the next level, whether it's business, whether it's real estate, or just overall growth. I made this podcast in reference to how I used to operating, how I was getting things started. So I'm actually like talking to myself. When I first got started on real estate or just wanting to do something different back in 2016, I literally spent a full year. I'm talking about I ain't listen to no music. I ain't listen to nothing. I just was listening to podcasts and motivational speakers. And that changed everything for me because I just basically put myself in a space where all I did was just learn. And it gave me a whole lot of information to gain and really get the ball started. But the one thing I will say is, right, you can't do what you don't know. So you can learn a whole bunch of stuff from podcasts, but make sure you tap in with the guests that we bring on because that's how you're going to really be able to get to the next level. Podcast is going to change everything, get you to that point A to point B. But in order to get to point C, you might have to actually tap in with the individual. So these people that we're bringing on here on this podcast, make sure you connect with them, tap in with them because that's going to how you get to that next level. So as you guys know, if you guys have been on before or if it's your first time, I only bring on guests that I personally have a relationship with. They're personally my friends and I personally do business with. And today's guest is none other. This is someone that we have literally been doing business. I'm talking about real business together for years now. Single-handedly has got me out of jams and stopped me from getting into jams. One thing you guys have to understand when it comes to real estate is paperwork involved. You may get away a couple times without doing some of this paperwork, but when you do get caught up, you want to make sure you have someone in your corner that can help you get out of that jam. Or if you want to do things the right way the first time, you want to have somebody that knows what they're doing so that way they can do your paperwork right and make sure everything's on point so you don't get into the jam. So I'm not telling you which way to go because I definitely do things, no paperwork, a little under the radar a lot. But that's because, I shouldn't even say this, but because I have somebody in my corner that can help me get out of jam if those jams come about. So who I want to introduce an amazing individual, amazing lady. We are friends. We are business partners. We do a lot of different things together. And she has literally not just helped myself, but helped so many people in this industry. And what I'm talking about is real estate. And what I'm talking about is real estate when it comes to permits, when it comes to plans, when it comes to anything dealing with the city to make sure your project is built, make sure your project is properly licensed, make sure your project is properly rented, make sure everything is on point. When I tell you guys, you have listened to a lot of episodes from this podcast, this is one of those ones that you really have to pay attention to. We're not going to be talking about a whole bunch of motivation, I'm talking about these are really things that you have to have because your project will get shut down or you might not be able to start because you're not listening to things she says. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce the permit plug, my great friend Paulette. What's up?
Hey, what's up?
Going
Thanks
on?
for having me.
No, for sure. Thanks for coming on.
No problem.
How long? When did we meet?
It's
been years.
I want to say 2020, 2021, 2021,
somewhere around that time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Somewhere because it was around that time because when I first got started in real estate, I was a real estate agent. Mm-hmm. And I was a real estate agent. Then I went to wholesaling, and then around like 2020. I had owned 2 properties before 2020, but 2020 is when I was like, you know what? Let me stop making everybody else rich, wealthy, and let me start buying these houses myself. So that's when I kind of like really, I don't know how we connected. Somebody connected me to you. I don't know how that really happened.
So, yeah, it was referral. 90% of my business is referral based.
That's good. I mean, people trust you.
So, yeah.
So I think that's how, and then you just kind of like, it just worked. Yo, I probably shouldn't even say this in a podcast, but I remember one day I needed help with something when it comes to like a permit or real estate or rental license. I forgot what it was, and I called you, and I'm like, "Yo, listen, I really need this done." Mm-hmm. And you was like, "Yo, you can pay the invoice now." I paid the invoice. You sent me back like the paperwork in like an hour.
Yeah.
How you did it? I don't know. I don't know what you did, but I know I had my license back in an hour, and I was like, that's all I need to know. So the one thing y'all want to make sure though is when people send them invoices, pay them so that way you can get. Here's the thing, right? Mm-hmm. This is the people get don't understand is your success starts when you start. Yes. So if it takes a month, like for example, if it takes a month for you to buy a house, that month starts when you finally decide to start. Mm-hmm. So like, for example, let's say it's January. You can own a property. If you start today, you can own a property, let's say in February. Right. But if you wait till February, then your house not going to March. If you wait till March, then it's not. So when you delay for things that happen, so imagine if I didn't pay that invoice until like 2 days later, I wouldn't have my license till 2 days later. Mm-hmm. But because I acted on it fast, I was able to get it that same day. So your success starts when you finally decide to start. So keep that in mind. But yeah, I just wanted to share that story because like
We have a lot of stories though.
We got a lot of stories. We got some stories going on
you
right
talking
now.
about the story
Like,
about the crackhead?
which one? I got a couple crackhead situations.
The crackhead. We tore the whole, demoed the whole house except for the one room with the crackhead in it.
Oh yeah. He was there when it happened. Yo, I got this story. I bought this house, right? Listen to this. I bought this house, and the funny thing, he really wasn't a crackhead, right? It was
squatter.
It was a crackhead in the house, but he wasn't a crackhead. So I bought this building, right? And this is why this is rule number one. Always make sure you don't just 100% believe what the seller says, because sometimes they are telling the truth, but they don't control the whole scenario. So I bought this house off this older lady. Like, one of my target marketing is dealing with senior homeowners, older individuals, because they always like to downsize or move out of state. Case in point, she was moving down south. She said, look, listen, I want to sell this house. And her son, she didn't trust her giving her son this asset because he was going to lose it. So she said, I'd just rather just sell it, get my money, than pass it down to him. And he ended up losing the house anyway. Mm-hmm. So that, full disclosure, this is a marketing strategy. I literally bought a lot of houses from older individuals because they just don't trust their kids. So they're like, why give it to my son and my daughter? Because they're going to lose it anyway. I might as well just sell it and at least make the money and can go casino or do whatever I want to do with the money. So long story short, I bought the house and she was renting out rooms. So she told the son to tell everybody to get out. I went there to walk through the house and he did. Cool. So I went through the house, I bought the house, and we went and walked through it again, like maybe 3 days before closing. And he did tell him everybody gotta be out. Mm-hmm. I didn't go back that morning of closing to like do, one more walkthrough. Yeah. So I did it like 3 days before. So when you're in situations where people live in a house, you need to walk through that property like 10 minutes before closing. Mm-hmm. Actually, y'all do the closing at the house. Y'all bring the notary there. So I went through the house and then half the people left, but it was 3 people there. Mm-hmm. 3 people there. I went in the house. I'm like, yo, listen, y'all supposed to be going. Let's say she was renting out like 6-7 rooms. It was the house is big. So she rented out 6 or 7 rooms and 3 to 4 of them left, but it was 3 people left. And I walked in like, yo, you supposed to be going. The one dude left. He said, my fault. I was just trying to see how far long I can get. My fault. He left. It was a crackhead living in the basement, renting out the room. However that was going on. Mm-hmm. He was acting a little funny. And then the one dude was actually on some, bro, come on. Like, like I ain't trying to take it this far. Like, come on. He like, no. So basically, I decided to just demo the house because my guys was coming there to do the demo. That's why we got there. We went there to start the demo. We realized people still in there. So I just told them to start demoing the house while they was in there. Crackhead left immediately. As soon as they start hearing banging and stuff, crackhead left immediately. He's like, man, I ain't trying to do it. But the one dude really was standing tall. So we had cut the pot because he still had the power on. So we had cut the power and took the front door off. We took the front door and cut the power off. And then that's when because it was like still in power, whatever. So I cut that line they had and I took the front door off. He calls the cops. Remember, he calls the cops on me. Mm-hmm. Cops like, yo, you gotta put this front door on. I showed him paperwork. He said, oh, you are the owner. And he showed him some little BS paperwork he had, like, yo, I live here, X, Y, and Z. So, rent rooms, you don't got nothing in your name. So he showed him he couldn't really provide nothing. So the cops told me, they said, look, pulled me to the side. He said, look, listen, the law states if it's your house, nobody can stop you from doing work in your house, but you cannot make the house unsafe by taking the front door off.
Facts.
And one of these ones, like, I said, bet. I said, bet. Put the front door on. I made him a nice path to go to his room, to the room he was renting, ripped everything out. I'm talking about the roof off, the bedroom off, I'm gonna show you the video. Literally ripped everything out of the house except for his path. Then he left. He ended up leaving. He called the cops. The cops came and he called the cops again. Mm-hmm. Cops told him, stop calling us because there's nothing we can do about it. Yo, I know you're enjoying this episode. I know you're getting a lot of game and a lot of value, a lot of information. But is it okay for me to give you even more value? Is it okay for me to give you more information? So if you just said yes, what I want to do is I want to give you access to a free training that I'm having 100% free. You can log in. If you don't like, you can log off. It's 100% free. In this training, I'm going to show you guys the 4 steps that I utilize to be able to buy properties, rent properties, make money on property. Like this building we're in right now is 100% mine. And we do that. And I have done that doing those 4 simple steps. So what I want you guys to do is go to fundedandclosed.com, just like the podcast, but fundedandclosed.com. And you're going to be able to register for the free training. Like I said, 100% free. And it's going to give you those 4 steps that I utilize to build my real estate empire. And you can do this exactly where you at right now. So look, we're going to get back to the episode. But before we go ahead and finish, press pause, go to that website, go ahead and RSVP for the training. And I'm going to see you soon. Let's get to it. Mm-hmm. He still got the front door. Everything is safe. You got your path to get to your room. He ripped everything out. I'm talking about we ripped everything out. The floor, subfloor, the floor joist, everything out.
Whoa.
And then he ended up leaving the next day. He was like, all right, this is doing too much.
No, that's what they call crazy stories behind the permits.
Yeah.
I like that stuff.
But yeah, that's why that's why I said which one. I got a couple Craig. See, the thing is with me, I'm real calm. I just try to just make things go smooth, make things go easy. I don't really want no problem. I just want to get my stuff and go about my day, make my money and go back home. But there's some situation where people are like, they're still trying it. I don't mind taking it to the max. Mm-hmm. I don't want to. I'm one of them guys where like, you know, somebody, they get their gun license, they try to show whatever. I don't want it. I don't want no problem. I don't want to even have to use anything. No, I'm not even trying to get in no fights. But if we go there for it, I'm fine with it. Mm-hmm. I had a couple of situations where I had to drag the crackers out the house myself. Yeah, I got a bunch of stories, man. I don't care. I really don't care. But that's not what the point of today is. We're not talking about that. But yeah. So just to get into it, I want you to just explain who you are and what exactly is the permit plug, permit expediter, permit plug. Like, what exactly is that? A lot of people hear like permit plug or permit expediter. They don't know. Mm-hmm. When I tell people like, yo, you need a permit expediter, they're like, well, what the hell is that? So I want you to just explain that. Okay.
So hi you guys, I'm Paulette, aka the permit plug, like I always say my tagline. So permit expediter, let me jump behind who I am first. So my background is as a licensed realtor. I was a licensed realtor for 14 years. During that time as a realtor, that's why I know a lot of agents and brokers. During that time, I specialize working with investors. Through investors, one of my investors needed an expediter.
Okay.
And I found out there was a such thing called a license with a license in the city of Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. Went down there, obtained my license. Unfortunately for him, I actually wound up quitting. At that time, I was a construction project manager on his project. Mm-hmm. So I was in the house when we did expose brick, returning stuff to the depot, using my ID to rent trucks and things like that, being there for inspections, showing up, becoming a contractor, all of these things just so I can help that one client. Because to me, I'm trying to get to the dollar. I'm hustling, right? But then once I became an expediter, I knew something was missing. During that time, I found about zoning too, how important zoning was. One of the first things I learned how to do was zoning. Zoning, I always say, is the mother of the building. Yeah. Zoning is, you know how to do, you know zoning, you pretty much mastered half of the real estate in the country, right? Because every zoning determines what you can use and how you can use it. So I got the license, became a permanent expediter, and then I very quickly realized there's not many people like us down here, right? And I never knew that it was a person that played the liaison between the municipality and the client. So I went from being a realtor for 14 years, construction project manager for 3.5, and right now I've been an expediter for almost 7.
Dope.
So my experiences. You're not new to this. Listen, I'm not new to this. My experiences was over time because I really wanted to do a good job. So I actually taught myself how to read plans, taught myself how to do engineer reports. I taught myself how to license contractors. And I only started that because I had to keep getting contractors out of their situations, helping them renew their licenses, helping them with their EINs, whatever they need in order to be compliant. I said, for all that, I might as well go ahead and start a GC class to go do it myself.
And put it together.
And that's kind of what everything it is, what I do. I never really chased the money. I chased the situation according to what kept happening in the area. Oh, everybody need renter's licenses. Oh, you need to do. So I was kind of add to services. But to make a long story short, when I jumped into this business, and then one thing about me, I've always been big on relationships. I have really long time relationships. I always know that the key to wealth is relationships.
100%.
You understand
100%.
me? 100% is relationships, and through those relationships have sustained me for being literally, like I said, 85 to 90% referral based business. I've been able to, and I made 6 figures or more since day one. But that first year, I never knew what making $50,000 a month was like before. I never even knew that because I was so busy working. I used to work almost 10 to 12 hour days. My kids used to come downstairs working from home. They'd be like, my mom is still here with the phone. Like, look, she's hustling. But by then, when they went on COVID strike, I'm on the phone with the same people that was at the desk, but I'm on the phone with them, you know. I'm like, what can I do for you? You know, I was buying a t-shirt line. If they worked for the municipality, I was getting real friendly because I wanted to have, you know, I didn't want to be sick, but I wanted to have that good relationship with them. So let me tell you, a permit expediter is pretty much that. We are the person who help a client with their permits when it comes to construction permits, building permits, rehab permits, renter's licensing, contractor licensing, as well as stop work violations, different type of violations that you can obtain or that you can get in any place, no matter what part of the country. Somebody gonna get a stop work, whether they call it a stop work or a cease or whatever that may be. That's when you call someone like us that plays the liaison between the municipality and the client. And what I mean by that's like having an advocate that actually knows the paperwork that has to be instead of you hitting your head. Because when you go down to a lot of these municipalities, no matter where you are, you don't know what you're going to walk into.
Exactly.
You don't know if that person just started working here. You don't know. And this is when I'm even in Atlanta. I don't know who these people are. They don't know who I am. Also, I don't know if that person is new. I don't know if the person came from a different department. In the city of Philadelphia, they have different departments. And in some other ones, you can sit with the reviewer, like yourself in some cities. So, you know, I realized that this is a language all within itself. And I felt like it was my duty. I actually took it on like it was my duty to learn this process and to be able to bring it to people to help people. That's my whole objective is how can I help you get through this situation? Because, I mean, face it, we're all scared of, well, in Philly, we're scared of PPA. PPA don't be no joke, right? But when it comes to L&I, people are scared of L&I too. Yeah. So let me tell you what I learned how to do. I want to know what is the inspector's job. That's no matter where you go. I want to know what is your job? What can you do? Can't you do? Your limitations. I want to know what's the difference in all the different aspects of license inspectors, right? Who can give me violation? Who can't give me violations, right? So sometimes if you know the title of what that person's position is, you don't know if they're coming out of their scope. Like, I don't even know why you're over here because this is not even your district. Or this may not even be your area, you know. So
that's some game.
That right there, you know, I learned that. Then I know the difference with the zoning. I learned very quickly that when I'm dealing with zoning, guess what? Zoning don't know anything about building. When I'm dealing with building can't tell me anything about zoning. When I'm dealing with streets can't tell me anything about building, zoning, or what have you. So what they would do is, and you probably see this in some of these municipalities you go into, that's how I get right. They'll get up and they'll walk over to that department and ask a question. That's still not really doing the due diligence. I mean, good for you because they're still getting a piece of the information.
Yeah, that's
right?
good. That's good.
They're getting a piece of that information. So it makes sense. I'm real big on being in your project. Be in your project.
Yeah.
I always tell people you have partners. Or let me talk to my partner, even if you don't, because when they think it's more than one person involved, they tend to think twice.
That's life. That's life.
Yeah,
that's really
that's
life.
True. That's
really,
true.
Especially when you're doing like real estate deals, like the initial trying to get the property, and the seller trying to hit you with X, Y, and Z. Tell me, hey, look, I gotta go over some things with my partner, even though it's not a partner.
Right.
That's just anytime you feel like you're talking to the point person, you move a little different.
You do.
Think about when you at a restaurant, you having an issue with the restaurant. You want to go but so far with the waiter because you know they can't do but so much. But when you bring that manager out, you talking a whole nother level because you like, I know they the person that can get this thing taken off this bill. It's just how it is. So always bring like, hey, I got to talk to my partner. I can't make the final say. I got to talk to my partner. And they know like, okay, you're taking some of the weight off of you, even though it is you, but it's just taking some. One thing you said though, and I want to touch on, you said a lot of people get stop work orders.
Yeah.
So if you guys ever notice, like when you get that big sticker on the front of the front door or the window of the project or your property, it says pretty much stop. Like you can't do no more work here. But what I want to say is a lot of times people getting these stop work, not all the time, but a lot of times people getting these stop work orders because they just doing too much. And what I mean by that is in reference, just not everybody, but it's a percentage of people, they're just doing too much. So I'm gonna say this to you. If you are someone, right, that is doing projects under the radar and you know you don't have your permits, you don't have your paperwork, and you like, hey, this is a 30-day flip. I just want to get in, get out. I really don't want to do the whole permit thing. Be mindful of what you're doing outside, out front. So what that means is don't be having this dumpster sitting in front of the house. Your guys outside playing all this Spanish music in front of the door. You just making a scene. Now you're bringing attention to your project. Thank God.
Correct.
Thank God I've been, and I hope, pray to that. I've never got a stop work order before. I've never in my life, ever.
Really?
Never ever got a stop work order.
Okay.
And it's not like I've just done one project. I've done multiple projects. Never got a stop work. But this is one of the things that I go ahead and do, right? I've done projects with permits. I've done a lot of projects with no permits. But the one thing I do is we keep the front look like zombie land until it's time. The whole front look like zombie land. The whole inside might look like Taj Mahal. And we start working. Right. We do certain things. I'm talking with the neighbors. A lot of times you get to stop. The neighbors calling on you. I'm talking to the neighbors. I'm making sure that we're cool. I'm making sure hey, how you doing? Hey, look, we finishing up. Look, when I'm done, when it's a little more safer, clean. I would love to have you come walk through. I just want to see what you think about it. Hey, look, listen, my guys, we're going to come sweep up. You got any trash? We got this dump. I just throw your trash out with us. Build this relationship. That's most of the time, they the ones that's calling on you. And then the second thing is we don't paint or do anything in the front of the house until the inside is done. At that point, it looked like, I just bought the house like this. It was already situated. So a lot of times, and we board up the whole front. So you can't even see the inside, what's going on. It looked like a bando for months. And then all of a sudden you're like, dang, when did this house get here? We've been working on it for months, but nobody noticed. I can't say that's 100% for everybody, but a lot of times when I see people get shut down, it's because they go ahead and tear the whole front wall down and try to rebuild it back up. Like, bro, what you thought was going to happen?
6 feet under in the front yard.
What you thought was going to happen?
With dirt piled up to, I said, are you kidding me, right?
You know what's crazy? I've literally tore down the back of houses and the front of houses. Literally, I probably shouldn't be doing this, but I've literally tore down houses and rebuilt them back up, no permits. And the thing about it is, we'll do things like that on the weekends. We'll do things like that. We just
they work weekends now.
Yeah, but even still, we're real strategic. We're trying to get this stuff in. How we maneuver and things. We just like real strategic. And I probably shouldn't be saying this because you should be getting permits and getting stuff situated. But for those that's trying to make it seem like L&I or your neighbors are the problem, no, bro, no, sis. You didn't make sure your stuff was right. So now people had to step in and call on you because you was just doing too much outside. Park the dumpster in front of the door, blocking your neighbor from getting outside. What the hell would you think was going to happen?
Yeah, that's they act real entitled. Yeah. But it's actually pretty simple. It's actually much better to sell a property knowing that you have permits because it helps sell the property. That's number one, right? And number two, one of the other things that you could do is you can actually rehab the whole property. And if you want to get a permit, just rehab everything and leave the kitchen and just let them come in. And they only going to view what you put in. If they didn't catch you in the act of doing anything, they can't say anything. But if you just pull the permit, so it's like, say, I just want a permit to show I approved, I pulled the permit, right? So they can't stop work you. Don't do the general minor thing because a lot of people do the general minor situation and let it expire. I get that part, right? But if you go in and rehab the whole building and say, I'm just here to rehab the kitchen, they go, okay, they're not going to go through your house. They're only going to go specifically, L&I is only going to go to what you put in your scope of work, in so many other words. If you don't understand that. So when you're doing an easy permit, you can't replace so many beams and do anything structural. Yeah. So you want to make sure that whatever you put in that scope, they will look at your plans. That's how they can tell that you worked out of the scope of your work because they look and review the plans prior to. And that's no matter where you go. A lot of times they also want you, and it's across other cities, they want you to have the plans actually posted inside the property to have the actual plans, right? Another thing, listen, I work with a lot of contractors. You guys get your OSHA 10, at least the OSHA 10 for your workers. So that's another thing. They'll stop you just for that. And that's across the country, right? It's available in all 56 or whatever, 50 states. But it's important to know stop leaving things and saying, I don't know, I got to talk to my contractor.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most annoying thing in the world. It's say, I don't know, I got to ask my contractor. So you
Mm-hmm.
went through all this time to get the bag,
Mm-hmm.
to spend the money, to
Mm-hmm.
pay the credit, to buy these beautiful things, and you mad at your contractor for getting shut down?
Yeah.
And you mad at, and you want to debate with the person that's trying to help you or debate with the municipality?
Mm-hmm.
Treat your business like a business like you're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
But never just say my contractor when you didn't require anything up front so you can stand on it.
Yeah. First off, Ella and I don't care about that. Like, I've seen people go down to Ella and I and they say, like, Ella and I'll ask some things or like, why isn't it done? I don't know my contractor, but this is your house.
See?
Like, that's their favorite thing. Like,
Yeah.
you trying to throw the blame on contractor, but this is your house.
It's your house.
Like, why do you make sure your house is right?
Exactly.
And so that's really a good point. But also, too, for, investors, new investors, I'm not telling you have to be the top general contractor in the world and you know how much every screw costs, but know at least something.
No,
don't grow into real estate just rob. Like, I know some investors where, like, my one guy, he was going through this project and then he asked me to come check it out. And he was like, I think mommy getting overcharged. I'm like, what you talking about? So basically the contractor charged him $100,000 to rehab his house. It was a small 1-story, 3-bed, 1-bath. I'm talking about small thousand. It was a small house charging him $100,000. It wasn't that much work. It wasn't a tear down. I said $100,000. I said, yo, this is like $30,000, maybe $40,000 worth of work. And he like, no, he charged me $100, like $95 or something like that. And I'm like, why? I said, why are you paying? I said, because he like, cause he a wholesaler. So he's like, I got the house cheap. I added $100 for rehab and I'm still going to make a lot of money. I'm like, I understand that, but just because you still going to make a lot of money after you pay all your expenses doesn't give someone a right to still tax you like this. And the reason why he was getting taxed, and I come to find out the same contractor did that on the other 3 houses he did. And I said, the reason why this is happening is because you so focused on the bottom line, not realizing that you're getting waxed. Dude, you could, he like, I'm still going to make, let's say $100,000 profit. I'm like, but you could probably make 150.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So he just like, dang, I didn't know. I said, bro, your homework assignment, I had to give him homework. I said, is to look through this budget and sit on some of these jobs, like know what's going on, y'all. When you are working on houses, you don't have to be top contractor in the world, but know something. Know a little bit about plumbing, know a little bit about electric, know a little bit about, you don't have to know everything, but know a little bit to where you know like, no, that's not right. Or like, no, you charging me too much. At least know how much 2x4s cost. So if a contractor see your budget, hey, I got to buy 100 2x4s, it's going to cost X amount of dollars. You know, okay, well, typically they cost this times about 100. Homeboy, that number you sent me not right. I don't know everything, but I know that math ain't right. So know a little bit so you won't get got. But when you said that, I really wanted to touch on that.
That's so important. I mean, ideally, this is why I advocate for people to become their own contractors. That's number one, because it helps you control your project, right? So I advocate for that. But you guys don't even know scope of works and the difference between the scope of work and a pro forma. And I think when you learn really how to be a general contractor, and I get you going bus tours, and you can only learn so much in a walkthrough, right?
Yeah.
At least if you learn the pro forma and the breakdown, and just as a practice, even put that in a class, that you will start to generally see what is the average cost for a single home, a twin, a multi-family, a triplex, whatever that may be. You will start to see those costs. No one can get really kind of over on you. You understand? You know the numbers just don't make sense. Now, even when the numbers don't make sense,
but this still look funny.
Right. But let me tell you the quick hack way in order to, when you're a new contractor, I just had a GC class last weekend, right? A quick hack. I show them, number one, I teach my GCs how to call for permits.
Okay.
I show them where to find the permits, like where to find the inspections. I give them the phone number. I tell them I break down the electrical and the third party inspector and what have you, right? Now, I mean, all of us do things our own way, right? That's just from what I see missing. But one of the things that they would do is I tell them to show up at their inspections. See, you're quick to get everything, but if you show up at your actual inspection, whether you feel like it or not, you're going to learn some things that for free. So you learn how the code is, and the code, you might not even know the code, but you know that you're supposed to have R29 on the roof, on the ceiling, and R19 or R12 on the wall, and then the paper got to be flipped a certain type of way. That's not something you just learn like this. That's something that you running multiple projects. Your job is to show up to your project with your contractor. And half the time, your contractor probably not going to be there. They're relying on somebody else themselves. Another thing, you want to also make sure that when you're managing your project, again, you're a glorified project manager when you're your own contractor, right? Or even the owner. So you're not even your own contractor. Even as the owner, you show up on your project. When you do that, guess what? You have the right to videotape and take pictures. And that includes here in the city of Philadelphia, what that inspector is talking about. Because by the time it gets from their mouth to your ear, to whoever you left in charge ears,
it's missing a point.
It's missing. And you're like, wait a minute, we just did this. Oh, why didn't they just say that? When actually, they probably did say that. But sometimes people selective hearing. Sometimes people are on their cell phone when people are talking.
Or just
because they're like, okay,
else.
yeah, I see you. All right, and what else? And what else? So my thing is, that's the time you need to be on your business. Let me tell you, people are staying too long in these rough-in phases.
Yeah.
Too long in the rough-in phases is unnecessary if you do your due diligence ahead of time. So, but show up for your projects. The more you show up to do your stuff like that, the less people can play with you.
Yeah.
The less they think they can manipulate the situation, right?